Hi everybody. So this video will be on some general fleet battle tactics, and I'm going to focus a lot on defense. So the main thing I want everyone to think about is on defense you need to get 75 morale. Um, and I have a little table with the source just if you want to look at it somewhere else. But I mean you can easily see these things in game of what gets you morale. So I have a list here of different ways of getting morale. The 75 you need, or at least 75. Some of them add up to like 77. Um, but one, we'll start with the basic, like you didn't kill anybody, you're only doing AI and the Raider. So the Raider's 20 morale, the AI are 19. You add that up, and that gives you, sorry, that adds up to 77. Now, one thing to keep in mind is uh, even on an easy to farm map, you're only going to have 15 AI out at a time. So if you're going to kill 19 AI to flip the phase, you're going to have to wait for AI to respawn. And that means there's going to be a delay, like a short period where, you're going to have to wait for AI to fly from the cap ship to at least like the middle-ish part of the map. You can farm on the edge of the danger zone and be in the danger zone sometimes, but you can't like go too deep in it or, you'll die. Um, so that's kind of like a baseline of getting that morale. Now, let's say you're defending, but you have a player kill this time as part of your morale. Now you only need 15 AI on the Raider. And so a thing I want to say with one player kill is, now you don't have to wait for the respawn of the AI. If you get the player kill and you can get the 15 AI that are there, you can flip the phase pretty quickly. um, yeah, so like that one player kill is giving you some value there. Now I want to look at 2 player kills. Now we've gone from 15 AI to 12. And I'm going to say to you that the value of this is very low. It has some on a map like Nadiri, where farming is really hard because 3 AI can take some time to kill, like a non-trivial amount. But especially on a map like Yavin, where you're killing 5 packs, there's not really a difference between 12 and 15 AI because you don't have to wait for a respawn. We're also talking about 3 AI between 2 farmers, right? Um, and so this is kind of a key thing where I say the flexes should be the main people killing the Raider. The bombers can help, but the flexes should be the main ones. Because if the flexes are spending all this time PKing, they're not actually reducing your farm requirements by that much. And so, and then also, like, a bomber will have to kill the Raider, so that ends up slowing your farm down more. So, like, the example I want to say is, if my 2 flexes are only stripping the Raider shields, and then they go for PK, one bomber has to stay on the Raider to kill it, and one can farm. But now, instead of having, like, 2 bombers farm 15 AI, we might need to have one farmer farming 12, or maybe like 7 or something, um, or 7 to 9, depending on how many the other bomber killed before the Raider. But the point of that is, like, you don't end up flipping the phase faster, even though you got 2 kills. And it's like a little counterintuitive. Um, but you're not, but you need to think about, like, you just need to get that 75 AI or morale quickly. And, you know, just shaving off 3 AI doesn't make you more efficient if you're delaying, like, killing the Raider and slowing down your farm. And to get even further, if you need to kill 3, now you've only reduced it by 9 AI, and 9, or from 12 to 9. And again, like, you're not like removing a respawn, unless this was like Nadiri. 3 AI is not that hard to kill, um, and it's hard to get 3 kills on good players. So you're really delaying your farm or Raider or both to accomplish that. So that's just not a situation where you should be going for that many player kills. Now, it might happen. It might happen just because the enemy like pilot errors, and of course, that's great. Go ahead and take advantage of it. But the flexes like should not be looking for usually more than one player kill on a defense. Your one exception might be a flagship defense, because if your shields are up, you can sort of like ignore the raider and keep protecting your shields. But I would say that's the only situation where, if you got a player kill, you shouldn't be on the raider. In general, you want to take out the raider relatively early, because between the farm and the raider, you can usually flip the phase. And that was a situation where you're not out of phasing anything. Now I want to get into what happens when you out of phase a cap ship. Um, so that out of phase gets you 15 morale, and so in some sense, it replaces a player kill. So let's say on a map, especially a good farm map, you out of phase the cap ship, you only need 14 AI. The flexes could just hit the raider right away, and you'll flip the phase really quickly. Like on Yavin or Esselis, you'll flip the phase very fast if you won the opening out of phase at least one cruiser. You could go straight for the raider with the flexes. The farmers just farm, and you'll flip the raider. And the farmers could coordinate a little bit. Like, let's say you're on Yavin. It's pretty easy to kill the 3-packs because they stay together. So you could say like one bomber kills a 5-pack, then helps with the raider. The other bomber does the other 2-packs. But that's map specific. But even on a map like Nadiri, I would say you should go for the raider right away, because sometimes you can get the AI fast enough um, to where you don't even need the player kill. The other thing is, like, when you get player kills matters, and I would say the best times are at the beginning of the phase or at the end. One reason at the beginning is because that's when a lot of important things happen, like beacons, shield strips, Goliaths to strip turrets. If you can delay any of those, that makes the opponent's offense much weaker. But if you kill it in the middle of the phase, it's kind of like, oh, they accomplished all their main goals. It's just kind of like getting you morale slightly faster. A kill at the end of the phase, though, has the nice thing to it, is that it makes your offense stronger, because if you kill a person and that flips the phase, they're not able to defend. So if you got a kill on, say, a bomber, you slow down their farm, on defense, so your offense will be longer. If you got a kill on their support, they might not be able to get resupplies to players who lack ammo, or they just need health, or they won't be able to beacon you, so ion missiles, or you'll be able to use chaff. And if you get a pick on a flex, like, that's just less ion missile out on the field, and that protects you and your raider on offense. And so kind of the general idea I think more NRN players should think about is, I want to kill early in the phase or late in the phase on defense. So if I was out of phasing, and usually the flexes are out of phasing, I sort of miss my window to kill early in the phase. Even if, it only 3 seconds, that 3 seconds was like the time it took them to, do their jobs, to get beacons off, strip shields, and so on. So you might as well just go for the raider, because you missed your window. And then when the raider's killed, then you can go PK. And if you get the kill, great. You flip the phase, you're in good position to offense. If you don't get the kill, your farmers will eventually flip the phase for you. And so, like, looking at the one cap ship, one pack, if I get, or one player kill, this reduces my AI by 4. So that's a little bit nicer. And on a map like Ladiri, out of phasing means you probably still want to get a PK. But it's not huge, right? You could still do it with 14 AI, and that's still what some of the best teams in the game will do. Now, here's a situation where you might actually want to ignore the raider, like at the beginning of the defense, or altogether. Let's say you add a phase 2 cap ships. That's 30 morale. You only need 45 more. In this situation, you actually only need 15 AI to flip the phase. And if the map is like Yavin or S-less, I would say, you could just farm the AI and forget about the raider. If the map's harder to farm on, you need 9 AI in the raider. So if it's Nadiri, you out of phase 2, go ahead and kill the raider, get the 9 AI, and you'll be good to go. So I'll talk about some example scenarios, um, just to try to drive this message home. So let's say you're on Yavin, you won the opening, and you got one frigate out of phaseable, and OOP out of phaseable. That's what I'll write this down. I don't think I did earlier in the document. No. Okay. I'll go ahead and capitalize that. Why not? Okay. So you got one frigate out of phaseable. It's Yavin, so your farm is good. So you can easily get the 15 AI. So in this case, you just destroy the raider immediately. Have the bombers farm 3 packs. One bomber can help with the raider after destroying a 5-pack. Have the flexes on the raider, and you'll flip that phase right away. They'll have a very short defense. Well, it'll be well under a minute if you're on top of things. And if you went for a player kill instead, it likely would delay your flip because you don't need the player kill. You got the frigate out of phaseable. Now let's say you're on Yavin and you lost the opening. So again, you can easily get 15 AI, but 19 you'll have to wait for a respawn. So one thing you can do is to try for a quick player kill before going after the raider, and that's to try to get the kill early in the phase. But because this is an easy to farm map, I would say you want to switch to the raider quicker, because if you delay too long, the farmers can actually just flip the whole phase by farming, and you'll kind of take more passive damage than you needed to, both because the phase will be longer and because the raider stayed up. And so if you don't get that kill early, the farmers can just stay farming to make sure that, they get that 19. They could help still with the raider, but it may or may not be necessary depending on how quickly you take it down. Okay, so let's go for this third scenario again on Yavin. You won the opening and your attack was really strong. This might have happened because you won the opening by killing a bomber, so their farm was slow, or even 2 bombers you killed, and you got 2 frigates out of phaseable. So you can easily just get the 15 AI and it'll flip. You could just ignore the raider altogether, honestly, and you could just go for PK with the flexes. And the idea is your phase is going to flip so quickly, you just are trying to get a kill to have a good offense, to mess up their defense when they flip back. Now, these were the extremes of good farm maps. As maps get worse on farm, they're going to start looking like the next 2 scenarios I'll talk about, which is Nadiri, which I don't know if Nadiri is the worst farm map. I don't necessarily think that, but it's one of the worst at least, right? Galatan's a good contender, too. Okay, but let's talk about 2 situations on Nadiri. So let's say you won the opening. You got 1 frigate out of phaseable on your offense. You flip back to defense. Now your farm is hard. So you could go for PK before or after the raider burn. And I'll say most likely you'll want to go the raider burn first, just because you might have missed your window to do the PK early in the phase because you had to add a phase. But it's sort of situational, Part of this depends on where the raider is. Sometimes the raider, or on this map, it can do this, but on maps in general, I'll say the raider can spawn far away. And so you don't want to attack it right away because it's in the danger zone, and you can sort of do it, but you have to be careful, and that slows you down. And and you kind of just want to wait for the raider to get closer. Or you see an opportunity to get a kill, like if you add a phase and then you see like a beacon Y-wing in front of you, go for the kill. That's a good opportunity. But because the map is hard to farm on, the bombers will want to stay on the farm more. And the only time I would say you would want to switch is, well, you can always opportunistically shoot the raider as a bomber, like you're on your way to an AI pack, the raiders happens to be on the way, might as well shoot at it. But if you're going to stop farming altogether to kill the raider as a bomber, it should only be when you've clearly gotten enough farm. So that's like the raider will flip the phase. That's a time when I would say you can always switch a bomber to the raider. But if you don't have enough farm yet, I like on hard to farm maps, I would say the bomber should stay farming basically all the time and just shoot the raider opportunistically. You opportunistically go low to hit turrets or shoot some lasers on the way, whatever. But that's in that situation. Now let's talk about Nadiri again, but this time you lost the opening. Now farm is hard again, and you can PK before or after the raider. In this case, I would prefer to do PK early just to try to stop that early offensive damage. But you could go for the raider right away. It might be a little out of your way depending on where you are on the map. But again, you can play it opportunistically and go for the raider first and then PK. But this is a case where you don't have anything out of phase because this is your first defense. You have to get all 75 morale. It's going to be hard to do. And so you need to get all the AI you can. And this is, I think, like the least likely situation where a bomber will actually switch altogether to the raider. Because you'll likely, even after a player kill, if you get it early, the flexes can destroy the raider and you still won't have enough farm. So the bomber switching to the raider, although it kills the raider slightly faster, it's not flipping your face faster. It might even, and in general, it'll slow down your face, slow down the flip. Because you needed, your AI, and you only had one bomber getting them because one was on raider, and they just can't get them quickly because, it's hard to farm on this map. So that's all I'm going to talk about in these example scenarios. And the last video I'll talk about sort of your second and third defenses, and I'll talk about some specific information I just want to make sure everyone knows. But thanks for watching.